in anything that you do, in any space that you have the privilege of occupying or any room that you have the privilege of being in, what are you going to do for this country? And how do you speak truth to power? How do you say the quote unquote impolite things that help us through not only these turbulent times, but really create a new foundation for how we see ourselves as a nation and as a country and as a people over the next 100 years.
How can a set of skills lead you down the path to success? That's what we're setting out to answer on the EdUp Canada Podcast. I'm your host, Michael Sangster. Join me as we unpack how leaders around the world have taken training and skills and turned that into a lasting career. Now let's learn together. Welcome back to the EdUp Canada Podcast. We always start our episodes with a little bit of energy, a little bit of fun, a little bit of a introduction to somebody who's a friend, because it always seems to be friends I've got online. But today I got somebody that I'm getting to know still over the last couple of years. He is the CEO of Computek College and more than that, and I'll let him introduce himself. Kumaran, why don't you jump right in and introduce yourself to our listeners?
Thank you, Michael, for having me on the podcast. Really fantastic stuff that you've been doing with the podcast, and I've listened to a few episodes and very excited about today. My name is Kumaran.
Only a few? We're over 85 now. You haven't listened to all of them?
I haven't found the time yet, Michael, but I'll try and get to all of them soon enough.
And I wouldn't either.
My name is Kumaran Nadesan. I'm the Chief Executive Officer of Computek College, which is a part of the 369 global group of companies, of which I'm the Group CEO as well. Computek College is a career college based in Southern Ontario, 35 years this year, campuses in Ajax, Toronto, and Markham. Very proud member of NAC and the CCO, and doing tremendous work, especially in this day and age with all this talk about labor market gaps and gee whiz, who's done that better than career colleges over the past 160 years. Beyond that particular thing, I used to be in government for many years, 15 years in the provincial government, did different kinds of roles at different kinds of ministries before I made the switch into the private sector during COVID-19. Big community sort of background as well. I've organized sort of, many grassroots organizations around politics, around business, around entrepreneurship, around sustainable development, and so on. Really proud of that community work as well, which I continue now on the board of the Canada-India Business Council and on the board of the Canada-Arab Business Council. And most recently, I decided, because I have all of this time on my hands, to write a book, which was published earlier this month. The Impolite Canadian, Why Playing Nice is Costing Us the Future. And beyond all of these fancy or not so fancy things, I'm still a guy trying to figure out what comes next and trying to make sure that I center family, my two wonderful children and my wife and my extended family, and everything that I do. So yeah, that's a little bit about me, Michael.
Great. We're going to dive right into some of the stuff that you guys are doing in your book. That's why part of the reason I wanted to have you on, but I wanted to dive in first. The work Computek is doing. Let's dive into the domestic operation now. College has been around a while. You and Morale have been in there for how long have the two of you been in the
5 years
college?
Now together, yeah.
5 years. Did you come in when he bought it?
No, I came in 5 years after he bought it.
5 years. So he's been around for 10 years with the college. Morale and I have a special friendship. We both went to the same high school, Jesuit high school in Winnipeg. So we always kind of banter along and have a good time. And we're going to head back for their 100th anniversary this fall. But let's dive into what Computek is doing in your community right now. Talk about your learners, talk about your community, talk about the big programs that you're impacting the community with.
Yes, I think that's a great question, Michael. So, I mean, as you just said, Computek's story started 35 years ago. And it began in many ways at the start in the Tamil community in the GTA. And if you speak to really any member of the 500,000 Tamil Canadian diaspora in Canada, somewhere someone would have studied at Computek. That just shows you the deep penetration the college had in creating many successful outcomes in the community, in the Tamil community, especially at the start, including many businessmen who've traced their educational roots to Computek. We've got elected officials whose parents or they themselves have studied at Computek years ago. So there's a long history to that. And when Murali bought the college 10 years ago, we kind of diversified beyond the Tamil community. So we are now very active in the East African, Caribbean, South Asian, of course, communities. We have quite a significant number of Arab learners as well. As you know from the sector better than I do, Michael, we have quite a range in terms of generations that study at the college. To that extent, many of our learners are still primarily between the ages of 30 to 40. Many of them are really qualified immigrants who need a different kind of entry point into the labor market that helps build economic prosperity for themselves and their families. And we are able to do that through different sectors, healthcare, business, and technology. And we've been doing that for quite some time, and especially our programs like the PSW program, the ECA program, cybersecurity, supply chain, accounting and payroll. These are programs you can't scoff at. These are absolutely essential programs. Not all of us need to be STEM researchers or red seal trades persons. We need everyone in the labor economy that Canada needs to build in order to stay competitive in the moment that we have. So we believe this is more than just a business. I think it's a mission and a vision that we have, and we are tremendously excited to bring that value to the Canadian labor market.
I'm going to do a couple of kind of quick hitters here, maybe. Just let's go back into the communities you're in. I think it's the strength of our colleges that you can focus in on some specific ethnic communities, train them, they're comfortable, they work on their language skills, they're newcomers to Canada. You rattle off about 7 different ethnic groups, I think, there that are newcomers to Canada. Would you agree that's kind of the strength of your college, is that you can focus on those students and really give them a chance to succeed amongst their counterparts? They're more comfortable in the learning environment?
I think that is one of the key strengths, our ability to really understand the specific concerns and aspirations of newcomer communities. I think that's an incredible opportunity that we have. And that comes with trust, as you can imagine, Michael, and recognition that Computek is making the right kinds of interventions that help long-term outcomes for their communities and their families. So because of that, we are constantly in these communities, whether it is community events, whether it is meeting members of their own diaspora or from their homeland coming to Canada. For example, I just had an amazing audience with the Ashanti King of Ghana the other week. And these are not branding and marketing gimmicks. This is truly for us to understand that newcomer communities bring with them, not just in terms of actual wealth, because some of them do, but a wealth of resources, a wealth of soft power and connections and knowledge and insights that ultimately help us improve what we do at the college. And so that aspect of being embedded and really interpreting and acting on those insights from having that very close relationship with diaspora communities and newcomer communities is absolutely critical to our success. But that is only one half of the story. The other half of the story is the strong programming, is the focus on customer service, is the focus and discipline on service delivery. Those two things have to go hand in hand. If one or the other doesn't, then the whole thing, I think, topples over. So yes, I'm extremely proud of the track record that we've built and the trust, especially we've built with newcomer communities. But I'm equally proud of the fact that we do not give up on quality. We are focused on service delivery. We're focused on advocating what this sector needs. So it's a 2-in-1 combo for me.
Interested in that. So a couple of episodes ago, I interviewed Dr. Sharif. I don't know if you've met him from Mississauga Career College. They're a college owned by the Coptic Church. And I may get it wrong, but I believe it was a Coptic Christian church. And the college is owned by that, and they train for their own care homes. They train for their own community. They're beyond that as well, but very, very interesting, similar kind of model. Not the same model, but the same kind of comments came out of him. I agree with you on the quality of education. I think there's something special, though. You're not going to go into a big institution and see a group of 20 people from your own community in the same kind of classes together, studying together. That comfort level is going to lead to better outcomes. It's going to lead to getting to a better graduation rate and an employment rate and a chance to really give back to this country that people have immigrated to, correct?
100%. And the real magic of career colleges, for the most part, is the fact that you're not just a number. I think there is definitely a very embedded relationship that you build with students, not just as students. I mean, you've been to our graduations, Michael. Families come out, and it becomes much more than an institution and student relationship, which can be quite sometimes artificial or sanitized, right? We truly understand. If you talk to our admissions team, like they truly understand what it means for that one learner who's a newcomer to put everything to the side and be in the classroom to learn. Despite all of those challenges, all of those difficulties that many of our parents went through as well as part of that immigration journey. So I think having that empathy, having that trust and understanding and familiarity with the career college and what we've done at Computek is crucial. The other aspect to this is also like Murali and I'm sure you've known Murali for quite some time, as you said. But similar to him, I've traveled quite a bit. So when I, share stories of my travels through Ethiopia or through China or through parts of Africa and parts of the Middle East, like I've been to those places. And I think when you share those stories and you understand that the world is a bigger place than just up here in Canada, people truly appreciate that we're not just running a business, but that we've actually been to their homes. Literally, their countries of origin. And I think that cultural intelligence and that understanding of how the world operates and how can we fully utilize that energy and the value and the skills that the world has brought to Canada through our newcomers, I think that's part of the magic that really works well for us. And we've doubled down, tripled down on it over the last 5 years, Michael.
Talk to me about what you guys are doing in Africa, because it's a very, very interesting project. We'll get into some other things, but I'd really like to make sure we get to that and talk about the training you're doing, because it's not about just training people for immigration to Canada, is it? You want to leave an impact somewhere else.
Exactly. So I think as many things do, a lot of what we do at the group goes back to our learnings and insights and experience at Computek. So, building on the 35 years of track record we have in technical and vocational training, Michael, what we have conceptualized is a policy framework which we released in Ottawa and in Toronto last month, which talks about the Global Skilling Center. And the Global Skilling Center, essentially, to put it in a nutshell, is exporting best-in-class Canadian Tibet programs abroad. Similar to the way in which our public counterparts have really built brand Canada in the international education framework over the last 50 years or so, we truly believe that there is an ample opportunity for career colleges and Tibet institutions in this country to also export this best-in-class Canadian Tibet pedagogy that we have. The Germans do it really well. The Australians do it really well. There is no reason why Canada cannot compete with these other jurisdictions abroad. So the work that we do in Africa, for example, in Kenya as a pilot, is to really take some of our best performing Tibet programs, many of them NAC's own curriculum, as you know, to these countries to be able to skill up two segments. 70% of the people that we're looking to train abroad are really for the labor market gaps that exist in Africa, in East Africa, in Kenya, and as well as adjacent markets like the GCC and so on. But 30% of that class, we actually are looking to do as part of pre-arrival services, not only bring them the Canadian curriculum, but also do employment matching, wraparound support services, so that when that individual who graduates from our NAC PSW program in our Nairobi micro training center, when they apply for express entry immigration at the Nairobi High Commission for Canada, their candidacy is going to be so much more competitive than somebody applying without a NAC PSW diploma, without a Scarborough Health Network job offer, without pre-qualified for SEIU union membership. These are the things that we're trying to do as part of pre-arrival services, which intersects with immigration, with ESDC, with GAC. So it's quite a Venn diagram that we've drawn with this policy framework. But the good news is there is wide recognition, if nothing else right now, wide recognition that we are coming to the table with solutions in terms of the issues that assail our country, and the opportunity to do something different and hopefully do something impactful is something that Murali and I are very excited about.
And I think you and I have talked about this. We've designed a program too. Should they go through the PSW program, those students will get topped up a little bit when they land in country to make sure the quality was there. They'll go back for a stay inside of a work placement inside of a care home to make sure we're in good shape. And then we'll take another run at the exam again to make sure that they're actually qualified completely when they arrive here. And I know the program you're talking about includes housing and mental health supports and all the different things that those people are going to need when they land.
Become a financial literacy, all of it. Yeah.
It's laudable what you're doing. We still reflect back, and I still do government meetings, and every time they come up and you were the problem with international students, we have to point out we weren't actually the problem. We were not the ones bringing in all the students. but it just keeps rearing its head, and we'll get there. So I applaud what you guys are doing, because I think it's going to have an impact abroad.
Yeah, if I may interject, I just want to commiserate with you on that, because I think even when we brought the policy paper and we've had meetings with ministers' offices in all of these departments, and I have to really reinforce the fact that this is an old wine in a new bottle. Like, this is not about international students. This is about pre-training future Canadian workers at source. And this is not about temporary foreign workers either. This is about creating very targeted, very specific, outcomes-driven PR pathways that can be leveraged in a surgical manner, as opposed to the kinds of things that happen that has led us to this current, shall I say, scenario, to put it politely. So yes, I think this is definitely something unique and interesting. I mean, the way Murali and I look at it is, it's not just for Computek to export it. I think the career college sector itself has such huge strength in terms of not only just applying ourselves domestically, but to also get involved in this. I mean, I think like better than I do, our public counterparts do it really well. There is a bit of a halo effect that they have for sure historically. But I think I'm very bullish on the fact that in this day and age where people are talking about, labor market integration, like, who's been doing it the most over 100 years? It's career colleges. So this is our moment. And I think the leadership that NAC has brought to the conversation is incredible, and more needs to be done. And I think a lot of career colleges need to galvanize around that mission of NAC's.
It's hard to get through the noise, though, as we know. It's hard to push through and get people to listen to the real story and the real facts about what went on in the international student thing. But you're right. It's not about international students. It's about pre-training people to come here and be successful day one and get off and running. So let's go back to the college. Let's go into your programs. You're doing a lot of work in cyber now, I see. So that's laudable. I'm interested to see where you guys are going there. But also, what do you think some of the next trends? And I always ask, I'm trying to ask this question more often, because we did a survey last year. So we're going to talk about the programs, but I want to talk about the employers. How many employer partnerships does Computek have that you're dealing with on an annual basis?
Easily 150 to 200, Michael. I think if you take...
That is lost in all of the debates that go on about our sector. So you've got 150 to 200 employers that are working with you on ensuring the curriculum aligns with their needs and ensuring that the students are well trained, and they're wanting to recruit them too, aren't they?
Correct. And the real beauty of career colleges like Computek is we have a range of employers. It's not just unlike our public counterparts, who I appreciate, not all of them are going to end up at OpenAI. You need the small cybersecurity and AI companies to find employees as well. So I think more than the number, it's the diversity of employers that really excites me, like the focus that we brought and we continue to bring to the SME sector, which I think deserves the most amount of support. The big guys and gals are going to be just fine. It's the SMEs that need the support in terms of their talent pipelines, their workforce planning. And that is a real strength that Computek has with our 150 plus employment partnerships. And I would say the same for our colleagues across the sector.
You're also a leader, you guys, and we're going to get into personal stuff in a second, but you're a leader in, I would say, one of our colleges for community engagement. You're very involved in different community organizations. I was very glad to see one of your team members just elected to the board of Career Colleges Ontario as well, which I think is awesome.
Yes, we're very proud of Shika.
And it's nice that it's not just the leaders of the organization that are on some of these boards too, because there's a chance for Shika to give something different to the group than an owner does. And they need operators around the table too. So it's very, very helpful to see her there. But talk to me about the number of kind of community engagement points you guys have, because I see you at this Board of Trade. I'm always being invited to something by your colleague. I try and get to as many things as I can with members, but you guys are very, very community involved.
You've been an incredible amount of support, Michael. I mean, all jokes aside, I think you've always found the time to engage with everything that we do. And we do quite a bit, as you can imagine. But yeah, we are members of the Durham Business Alliance, Michael, which is a consortium of all the regional boards of trade in the Durham region. We are members of the Scarborough Business Association, Toronto Region Board of Trade, different bilateral councils like Canada India Business Council, Canada Africa Chamber of Business, Canada Arab Business Council. We have, as a consolidation of our strategy, a community investment framework that we look at the end of this year for the next year, where we actually think about strategically what are the kinds of business chambers or community organizations that we are going to support and for what purpose. There are KPIs that are established. And that builds on fundamentally, though, a very values-driven approach that we cannot build anything alone. This business, the success, all of this is truly meaningless. And I know it's kind of crazy that I talk like this, but Murali talks like this as well, is meaningless if you don't actually build community around you. So, whether it's in Markham, Ajax, or Scarborough, hopefully with many other locations in the future, we are very invested deeply into the heart of the communities because we grew up in these communities. We lived in these communities. We're raising our children in these communities, right? So
you built a very strategic partnership with Durham Region around PSW training.
That's right. I'm very proud of the public-private partnership. The town of Ajax has been an incredible leader at the local government, and we have managed to train over 750 PSWs over the last 4 years with the support of the provincial government to address these long-standing healthcare shortages in the region, which are historic. And we hope that we've made somewhat of a difference in the last 4 years with that particular program. But many more to come, and we're always constantly looking for that public-private partnerships because career colleges can pull this off. Like, we do know how to steward public funds. Like, not all of us, some of us come from government, others come from other walks of life, but it's going to take this multi-sectoral partnerships to get there. And I would argue till the cows come home that public-private partnerships in the way that we are doing with local governments, I think it should become the norm. I think if we think about getting to the granular labor market gaps that exist at community levels, that is not going to come from Ottawa. That's not going to come from Queen's Park. It's going to come in conversations in boardrooms and in parks that build community. And that is the magic of what we've done in Durham, and we're hoping to expand that across other regions in Ontario and Canada.
Does Murali bring any skill sets to the team? I know you do. I know Shika does, and other team members do. But what does Murali bring to the table?
Murali brings heart. And that's not that is not I'm not fluffing off the answer, Michael. I am, unfortunately, think more with my head than with my heart. And Murali, thankfully, balances that out with heart. It's not to say that I'm heartless, but I am very much outcomes driven. And so it's a nice complementary skill set. But no, anything that I've said and anything that we've done builds on ultimately kernels of ideas that come from Murali's vision, which we are very grateful for. We just have to make sure that we create space and time for him to have even more vivid visions and not have him stray into operational, shall I say, details.
No, I hear you. So let's dive into you a little bit, Kumaran. Let's talk about, we touch on a couple of topics. We try to with every guest. A skill set, something that makes you successful. And is it something that you had early on or something you had to train yourself to do?
I think my work ethic is probably what I will pick on, Michael. I'm a workaholic, and on the good days it's great. On the bad days it's quite bad. But I grew up watching my dad, who retired at the age of 75 last year, and the man started working when he was like 22, and he left Sri Lanka to go to the Middle East as an accountant. And then he rose through the ranks and so on. But I would see him every morning, like he would have his clothes neatly pressed and ironed and starched, and work was worship for him. And I remember when I took on the role and, I had to do a kind of little spiel about me, I said, for me, work is worship. I feel very blessed to have this opportunity, to have this time, and to have the skills and the talent. And so I have to apply myself. And my expectation is that we all apply ourselves to the work because there is dignity in labor. And I think we need to do the work if we want the outcome. So work ethic is something that I think I was raised with, kind of observing. And that's something that I've doubled down, especially in the role now as CEO. It comes at a cost, of course, those late nights and those short ends with, short tempers with our kids and so on. But this is the moment and this is the time to build. And I think you all, there's no work-life balance. That's a farce, as you know, Michael. So
it's work balance. We used to say, how do I get a bit of life into the work time? I used to joke about that when I worked at TELUS as a executive there. And it was, we used to go joke around work balance, but we had fun working too, which made all the difference because you could come home. But it's funny you say that because I instituted a bit of a walk. Halfway between the office and my house, I would stop there was a mall, Billings Bridge Mall, and I would stop and go for a walk for half an hour in the mall in the winter, and just to get the office gone and the home, because I was coming into the house angry. So I think we can all continue to develop and learn. One of my daughters brought something to me the other day. My initial reaction was to be about 3 months ago, and I got my back up, and I thought, no, wait a second here. She wants to do this with me. She's 24. This is pretty cool. I got to figure out the way to get this thing to work because that's cool. And I got to go do that. But my reaction a couple of years ago might have been to be, and you can see me, I jerked back. The listeners can't see us. So we all got to continue to figure out the right balance to be successful. So that leads me to another one, because I think I know the answer based on the last one. Who's your mentor? Who's the one who's had the biggest impact on you? We ask this because I think this is what colleges are all about. There's so many mentoring moments that happen in these classes of 10 to 12 people, 15, 20 people. You can't not be doing mentoring if you're in a class size like that.
Yes. Agreed. There's no one singular mentor for any of us. I think there are different mentors in different aspects of our life. I would say, you might grin at this, Michael, but I would say in business, Murali has provided great mentorship for me. Business is something very new to me. I didn't come from a family of businesses. Many of my families were professionals or poets. There was no sense of business in our family. So learning a lot from Murali in terms of how to operate, especially a small business in this day and age, and kind of taking on some of that stress that he has had to, hold in isolation at the very top, and to be able to hold that, a little bit of that for him. I think it's a privilege, and I take that as a coaching moment from him. But my mom was a big force. She was a lawyer. She read voraciously, very argumentative, which I'm told I am as well. But, very singularly focused on principles and truth at any cost. She says it's a bitter pill, but if that's what you need to get better, then that's what it is. And I think I've imbibed a lot of my mother in me, my father's sort of work habits. So it's a bit of a interesting combo. It can people either love me or hate me. There's never anything in between, unfortunately. But there's so many mentors. When I was in the public service, Anne Matthews, who was the director of communications at Government Services, was a big mentor of mine because I was a chief of staff, and she gave me free rein. That really built confidence for a young man trying to get his place in the public service. So, there were so many, moments of mentorship in that journey, and I'm now getting mentored in some things by my wife, but you know how that goes, Michael.
But that's a good thing too.
Not a bad thing.
Is that mentoring or is that coaching? I think it's probably coaching. She would call it.
Maybe it's coaching. She does tell me sometimes I'm uncoachable, but I tell her not to give up on me. So we'll see how that goes.
So we try and keep this to 30 minutes because we think that's the attention span now that we can hold. Talking about our sector. Talk to me a little bit. What else do you want to say? What do you want to leave people with before we sign off today about Computek, about Canada, about your book, anything? What do you want to touch on?
Gosh, I talk the least about my book, ironically, Michael, but I think it is kind of all wrapped up in the same answer, which is people say that we are having a moment, and I've said that earlier on in this podcast. My real preoccupation right now, whether it is in Computek, whether it's in 369 Global, whether it's in the philanthropy work that I do through my own private family foundation, or in the community organizing that I still do on the side of my desk, believe it or not, is how do we make this moment permanent? That we continue to learn from the lessons of the last 18 to 24 months and really think about how do we rebuild and continue to build an even stronger Canada. And so my only clarion call to action from the book is it doesn't mean that you have to be the CEO of Computek or the CEO of NAC. In anything that you do, in any space that you have the privilege of occupying or any room that you have the privilege of being in, what are you going to do for this country? And how do you speak truth to power? How do you say the quote unquote impolite things that help us through not only these turbulent times, but really create a new foundation for how we see ourselves as a nation and as a country and as a people over the next 100 years. And I know that sounds very la-di-da, but I am unabashedly naive or Boy Scout about it. And I truly believe that this is the moment. And like I said, you can be an electrician, you can be a PSW, but think about how in this moment in time, you're going to make a difference in what happens in this country. And that is the only call to action overall from the book. So I kind of gave the book out. You don't even have to buy it anymore, Mike.
Yeah, I don't read the book now. I got a copy of it on the way. I bought it. Now I don't have to read it.
You don't need to read it. That's the book.
In all seriousness, actually, I love this people in our sector. I've got a copy here of the new Jason Altmeyer, my colleague in the U.S. I picked up a copy of his book, Trade Up, about trades. And there's a segue there for you because you said something earlier about dignity of work, dignity of hard work. I think it's also now that, so in the U.S. and in Canada, we're seeing a respect going back to the dignity of the skilled trades. I'd like to see us accept the dignity of healthcare workers. I think during COVID we did. These are crucial jobs. We got to pay them better. We got to take better care of them. We got to empower them to do more so that the nurses and doctors and others can all be part of an ecosystem that help each other. And we see those institutions that do that well. But I think you guys play an important role in training people, giving them new career paths, but setting them up with all the things they need to be successful. And I think you should be applauded for that. And I want to thank you too, because both you and Murali have been tireless in representing the sector, not Computek, but taking a meeting with Heather Yang to go meet with a member of parliament. Two colleges that compete every day, but that wasn't about that. It's about the common goal of we need people to understand what we do. And I know you guys are on the same level as we are about when we have challenges, we got to tackle the challenges too. But it's the misconceptions that are killing us some days because people just choose to believe what they believe and don't dig in. I always say to people, and I encourage you because I have been at 2 of your grads, go to a graduation ceremony at a career college. Go to the Computek graduation and see the hooting and hollering and yelling because there's 20 family members there, not 2. And I understand why my daughter's university graduation, we could have 3 guests. But we shouldn't have to pick who gets to come celebrate. And that's what I love about the career college graduations. And it's often a first graduate in the family, right? You've seen that. Before we leave, I'm going to add one here. We got a favorite student. We've got somebody that really had an impact on you, or an instructor, or somebody that really put their back into it and left an impression on you, why this is worth doing.
There are so many instructors, but I'm going to pick on Savitri David, who's probably a longest serving instructor in the ECA program. And, she's been a part of Computek for many, many years, and the energy and the optimism and the confidence that she brings to her students even now, whether it's, gathering with their families at parks. My grandparents were teachers, and it's a very noble profession to shape minds like that, and to see her impact beyond the classroom and to understand each of them as individuals and to learn about what's going on with them. It's incredible what Savitri has built. When this podcast gets out, I'm sure I'm going to get a lot of complaints from other instructors. But I can say that as long as serving instructors, as I know in Computek, I think she's a tremendous flag bearer for the values of what we try and demonstrate every single day at college.
And we lose track of the fact that she's probably changed 1,000 families or 500 families by educating.
Easily over 1,000
families. Forget about that. Yeah. It is. The great line I heard was one of our college owners out in New Brunswick, and his name Tony Reeder. And he explained it to me. He said, we put branches on family trees. And I said, you're going to have to explain that to me. And he goes, we give them the confidence to have a career, not a job. And maybe that leads them to have the confidence to get married.
Yeah.
Maybe then have children. Yeah. And then maybe their spouse goes and retrains and we give them the confidence to build a tree, not brand. And I thought it was a really, really good way of putting it, because there's a whole bunch of little buds that bloom because of career colleges.
100%. I mean, education is such a gift. And to be able to do that every day, that's a huge privilege and responsibility for sure.
So I think we'll leave it there for today. I really appreciate your time and your effort on behalf of our other members, as well as I mentioned earlier. I look forward to getting together again soon, probably sometime in August in Toronto, and catching up. But really appreciate your leadership and really appreciate you joining us here today.
Thank you, Michael. And likewise, thank you for your leadership of NAC. And I think these kinds of mediums like podcasts are even more important. I would love to say, as a public policy wonk, that data should be the end of it to make any argument. Sadly, we are not in those times, and we need a multiplicity of ways to tell our story. And so kudos to you for launching this podcast and the team that's putting it together.
We're coming up on 100 episodes. We've done over 100 because we did a little series with the Navy about careers in the Navy, which was interesting. We're coming up on our 100th episode. Nobody thought we'd make 10, so we're pretty happy with that. Now we just need to get more than 10 listeners.
That's Sangster telling people, doing what people say he can't do. So I love it.
Exactly. Thank you, sir. We appreciate your time. And with that, we'll leave this episode of the EdUp Canada Podcast. And we welcome you to join us again next week for another episode. Thanks for listening. Thanks for listening to another episode of the EdUp Canada Podcast. We release new episodes regularly, so make sure you hit that subscribe button so you know when they are officially out. If you love this episode, please leave a 4 or 5-star review wherever you listen to your podcasts, so that others can also discover how a set of skills can lead to success. Thanks for learning with us.